You can distract yourself, you can pivot every time you become aware that you're caught in its web of energy frequency. Hey guys, it's Terrie. So great to see you. How's your heart today? How's that beautiful, wonderful, dynamic heart of yours? I hope it's well. Let's talk about thought forms, shall we? Let's have a little conversation about thought forms, what they are, how they affect you, all the things. Just a heads up, Buttercup. The bird is also in the room. He seems to be behaving right now. So any of those weird sounds that you hear, just embrace them. It's nature in Cement City here in Los Angeles. All right, so thought forms. Let's get back to thought forms. As we know, thoughts produce feelings and feelings produce frequencies, right? Feelings are emotions, energy and motion. So the feeling of happiness, for example, is the energy of those frequencies of happiness moving through, passing through, right? So scarcity, right? That's an emotion. So that is an energy that is moving through, right? So these thoughts have frequencies, okay, through the feeling, okay, which is energy and motion. So a thought form has vibrational frequencies to it. So you can just have one thought with an electrical impulse emitting a signal. When a thought is thought over and over and over again, the more attention we pay to something, the more our attention goes to where we're putting our attention. So where you place your attention is where energy goes. So if you are thinking a thought over and over and over again, you are feeding a thought, okay? Now, since thoughts have signals, the more a thought is thought, the bigger the electromagnetic field around it, the frequency of it gets, and it can become what's called a thought form. So a thought form is a thought that has a big enough energy field around it, right? When a thought is thought over and over and over and over and over again, for example, I'm not good enough, or I'm not X enough, or whatever enough, that thought form grows and grows and grows and grows, and it has its own field. Like you have your own electromagnetic field, Yossi the cockatoo has his own electromagnetic field, I have my own electromagnetic field, Mother Earth has her own electromagnetic field, and now this thought form has its own electromagnetic field. We can kind of look at a thought form as an entity or a being, right? Like I'm an entity, I'm a being, you're an entity, you're a being, because it's got a big enough field that it can actually influence something or someone else that has another energetic field to it. So if a thought form is positive, that's awesome, right? But if a thought form is negative, that's not so awesome. So you have a thought form that's kind of like this entity or this being. If it's negative, it's gonna influence you if you have that thought and you're feeding your attention to that thought form, to that being. It could really result in like a soul-sucking situation where you lose yourself. What you're doing is you're losing yourself to a thought form. Now, what if it wasn't just you having this thought form or experiencing this thought form or feeding this thought form? What if it was your family? Same thought form, now just more of you. Let's say there's 5 people in your family. Guess what? That's 5 sources of energy feeding this thought form. And if it's a negative, not good, dense, vibrational thought form, that's a lot of food to feed with attention, this thought form. Thought forms you can think of as maybe narratives, storylines, They may or may not actually be true. And they can also be positive as well. So that's a good thing, right? So thought forms don't necessarily have to be bad. They can be good. In transurfing, the similarity would be pendulums, right? So it's the more you give your attention to a thought form, the bigger it's gonna grow and the more it's gonna pull you in or suck you in or influence you, both positive or negative, dense or high vibrational frequencies. It doesn't matter. That is how thought forms work. They are entities, they are beings, okay? So the thing is, like, they don't influence themselves much on their own, okay? But the stronger their field, the bigger their field, the more it will affect you. And how they get stronger is by more people having the same thought. So let's look into what are some areas that maybe you can think of offhand that might be, in these thought forms or storylines or narratives, right? How about, there's never enough money, or I'm not good enough, or even things like politics, or how about sports teams, anything where there is a lot of people, even social media, right? Just like everything, it just sucks you. And the more people feed their attention, the more it lives and it thrives and it influences. But what happens if you're being affected in a negative way and not good? What if it's a negative thought form or a low density thought form? Well, it's gonna affect you. It's gonna affect you until you can come online with a consciousness and awareness and being mindful of the fact that the thought form is kind of eating your energy, or you're leaking your energy onto this thought form or into this pendulum or on this narrative or on this story, right? And a lot of that is happening right now all over the world, right? Where are areas you can see it in your life, right? So how do you stop this? Well, first you got to be aware. You got to come online, right? Which is what I'm saying, is that's the first level. The first step is just to understand and know that you are caught in this pendulum. You are caught in this thought form. You're caught in this narrative, and it may not even be true. The second thing is, once you become aware of it, you can stop feeding it your attention. So you can distract yourself, you can pivot every time you become aware that you're caught in its web of energy frequency. Right? So oftentimes you may be sucked back into something. And the reason is you're sucked back into something is because you haven't given yourself enough time to detach from you giving it your attention. So it does take time to be able to separate from a pendulum, okay? Think of the withdrawal of an addiction. That's what's happening, is you are not feeding your attention energetically to that drug, that alcohol, that sex, that gambling, whatever it is, right? So it's that withdrawal period where you're detaching, right? And you're so susceptible and so vulnerable to be sucked back in during those times, but you have to consistently over and over and over stop feeding your attention. What happens when you stop giving your attention is that energetic cord, that energetic connection starts to atrophy, and then it does pull away. It's called pruning in neuroscience. It's called pruning. You're detaching the thought connectors to those electromagnetic impulses, okay? So it's super important for us to understand and realize when it may not even be our truth. I'm always saying, stay in your truth so that you can be authentic and you can be you. You have to take a look and just say, am I caught up in these thought forms? Am I caught up in these pendulums? Am I caught up in these narratives? And how are they serving me? Right? You're the only one that can make that assessment. I can't do that. I might be able to point it out if I'm working with you, coaching and mentoring you, but if you're just watching this video, I don't know what's going on with you. You know what I'm saying? So, just take a look at your life and see, where are thought forms running your life? Where are pendulums running your life? What narratives are you feeding into? And you've got to take control, take a hold of your life and just say, no, I'm not going to give myself, I'm not going to feed my energy into that entity, into that being anymore. And eventually what happens is it shrinks through that process of pruning and through you detaching cord, the emotional attachment to the cord process over and over and over again. It's about doing that, not talking about disconnection, not feeling disconnected, being disconnected, because you're doing the disconnection. I hope you understand that. If you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. But yeah, thought forms are kind of like an entity that are kind of haunting you, right? So get a hold of yourself. And the way you get a hold of yourself is by coming online, becoming aware and conscious that you are caught in a thought form. And there's nothing wrong with that. It happens to the best of us. However, I will say this. Here's the caveat. If it's a good, positive thought form, pendulum, narrative, storyline, stay in it. Stay in it. But if you feel like you're losing control of your life and something else is running you and you can't make your choices and decisions easily and effortlessly, you could be caught in a thought form, a pendulum, or a narrative storyline. So stay connected to yourself and you will know if you are or not. So stay connected to yourself, stay connected to your friends and family, and of course you can stay connected to me, and I'll see ya on the flip side.